In this episode, I'm going to show you the number one most effective way to manifest more money into your life, period. Out of all the thousands of videos that I've made, many hundred of them have been on manifesting abundance. And I've seen, not only in my own life, but in other people's life, what is it that makes all the difference? What helps you to release the blocks that you have around abundance and money that's keeping you maybe in a certain comfort zone of playing small? Maybe you feel like there's certain beliefs you have about money. You feel like you have worry and fear around that of money that's keeping you in a certain box from experiencing what you really want in your life. Well, in this episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to release that and what makes all the difference when it comes to manifesting more abundance that makes the process easier than ever and allows you to really be also in more alignment so that you enjoy the process as well. Welcome back to another episode on the Aaron Doughty podcast. My name is Aaron Doughty, and today we're looking at that of understanding money and abundance in a completely different way. Now, one thing that I did is I went through and I looked at my own life, the timeline, especially from 2012 when I first went through my spiritual awakening. And at the time I was working my 9-to-5 job of selling women's shoes. And I can see then, when I had certain realizations, there were certain books that I read about money that completely changed my life, and I'll share with you what those are. But then also, fast forward, because I learned some of it, I applied it towards my sales commission job. But then in 2017, when I went full-time on YouTube and I started making videos, I can see that I used the same principles and techniques then that then put me on a new trajectory, to where then everything changed. And then even months after I went full-time, I went from, I think, making, when I first went full-time, I went from working my sales job, selling women's shoes, making like $60,000 a year. And after I quit that, I then was making about $60K a year, making videos, about the same. There's a certain self-image, like a set point that I had where everything was on autopilot. But then what happened is everything exponentialized and grew because of one little thing that I did that I'm going to be sharing with you. And it has to do with understanding money in a completely different way from what we've been taught about money and why we've been stuck in the patterns that we have been in up until now. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, first off, let me share with you one thing that made all the difference in the world, especially when I had that 9-to-5 job. Now, to give context, having the 9-to-5 job, selling women's shoes, I wasn't the most passionate about it, but at the same time, every single day I went in, I would start at $0 for the day, and I would only get paid if I sold shoes. I got paid 10% commission of everything I sold. So if I sold $2,000 worth of shoes, I'd get paid $200. And that was cool because out of high school, I got that job about a year or two after working at Nordstrom Rack. Then I transferred to the full line store where I got paid much better. And I was making like 30, 40 bucks an hour, 20, 30, 40 bucks an hour as like a 19-year-old. That was kind of crazy. All my friends were making like 10 bucks an hour back then. And I'm like, it was pretty cool. The cool thing about this though, was every day I went in, I started at zero. And as I started learning the law of attraction, and as I started to read different books, I could see what really worked and what really didn't work. I could see that if I went in and I had a certain vision for what I wanted to sell that day, it would depend on my energy, and it would depend on certain things that I would do to what kind of results that I got. Now, one of the biggest things that changed everything for me were two different things that I learned. The first one was from the book Think and Grow Rich. The book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He has one little sentence in there that really changed a lot for me. It was this one thing: go the extra mile. Go the extra mile. Now, I'm also going to be, some of this stuff you've probably heard me talk about in this episode before in prior videos. I'm going to bring in a concept I have not talked about in a long time that will really clarify a lot of this for you. But it's similar, and I'll show you the tie to the whole going the extra mile thing when we talk about the energetics of this. But going the extra mile means going above and beyond, giving more than other people that are maybe giving in your field. If you were to do this one thing, this is what would change everything when it comes to you getting maybe a promotion at your job, you getting job offers. When I had this mentality, while selling women's shoes, I got offered jobs more than any other time when I was working that job, was when I would do this one thing, and it's go the extra mile. Now, what did this mean? Well, first off, I'm selling women's shoes, right? Well, what I would do is I would go the extra mile. I would do little things that like a lot of people would overlook. One of them is I would have put the bags in the shoe, like the Nordstrom bag, and I would put tissue over it. I would have a little bit more attention to detail when I was like being mindful that they were buying like, $100 or $200 to $500 pair of shoes. I remember one time, by the way, this guy that I worked with, what was his name? I don't even remember. I think his name was like a Daryl or something like that. And he came from Dillard's. And Dillard's had kind of like a rep for being more of a sales like rack place. Like they always had sales going on like all the time, all day, every day. And this guy comes and he's working in the same department at me in Brass Plum shoes in Nordstrom's. And I remember one time he was helping a customer and he took all the tissue out of the box, threw away the tissue, and then just put the shoes in the box, clamped up the box, put it in a bag and gave it to her. And she was like so offended. It was like a $100 pair of shoes, but like it was because the way he was treating it was like garbage. And I remember thinking like, this isn't Dillard's anymore, bro. People also going to Nordstrom's had a certain perspective because Nordstrom's was known for customer service. They were known for going above and beyond. They were known for like doing crazy things. They're also known for their return policy. So they'd return everything, even if it was like, a year later, they would do a return on it, which wasn't always the best for the sales employees there, by the way, because the sales employees would sell these shoes and then somebody would return them like a year later because even though they were warned, because they decided that they could do that. And then the salesperson still gets hit with the return. So it's kind of shitty. Side note. But I remember that mentality, that energy didn't vibe as well because it wasn't, there wasn't that much thoughtfulness. It wasn't going above and beyond when that Dillard's guy did that. So I started to eventually do the opposite, where I started to go above and beyond. I would go above and beyond to like make sure and like bring out other shoes I thought they would like. And I'd like offer them water, and I would do all this stuff that some other people didn't do. And immediately from doing this, I started selling more. People thought that people could feel that I really cared. There was more authenticity there, and I'd get more job offers from other places because I was going above and beyond. I was going the extra mile. Now, this will set you apart from other people you work with. This will set you apart from, if you own your own business, from other companies. I also use this, by the way, and we'll talk about the dynamics of this, of why this energy works as well in a second with the new concept I haven't talked about in, I think, years, but I brushed upon it recently and it made all the difference. But even when I started making YouTube videos, I started looking at, there was also a self-worthiness thing when I started making videos because I looked at like Ralph Smart, Teal Swan, all these other creators. And what I noticed is that, I thought that them making videos of just talking to the camera, just like in front of a camera, it was like they're doing that works for them, but that won't work for me because I had such a low level of self-worth that I felt that I had to like add in crazy cool editing. I had to do all this extra stuff so that people would watch because in the beginning, at least, I just didn't believe that people would really just watch me for me. So that was something else I had to become aware of. But when I started making videos on YouTube, one thing that made it easier is I made it less about me and I made it more about the other. How can I add value to other people? So I would add value and think, well, what videos would help people to shift their life? I was making videos on the law of attraction. I was making videos on reprogramming the subconscious mind. I would then see from videos what resonated most with people, what they wanted more of. And I would just keep focusing on adding value and adding more value than anyone else I've seen done. And that's how I treated it. This isn't about me. This is about adding value. And even when I had that 9-to-5 job, if I went in selling shoes and it was all about me and my paycheck, then people would feel that off of me and they would feel that I was trying to use them as a customer to get me closer to my goals. But if I went in and I want to add value, they would feel that and it would then have the side effect of more money. So that's another point I want to make here. Money is a side effect, not the end result. You never want to focus on the money. On YouTube, you never want to focus on the subscribers and getting more subscribers or the views. You don't want to focus on those things. You want to focus on the energy. And that's what money is. Money is energy, and money is a reflection of the energy you are putting out into the world. So when I make YouTube videos, if I make YouTube videos with the intention of adding value, and I do it in an engaging way, and I focus on that, then guess what? There's going to be more. This stuff comes anyways. The views, the value, the people sticking around, like that all comes as a result of that. But if you lead with and you make videos to get views, those videos never get the views. If you are going and helping customers just based on like if they're going to buy or not and like are they going to add value to you, you will create a lot of resistance, and many times people won't buy because they'll feel that energy. Some of the best days I had were the days I went in with the intention of adding value, but also of having fun. That's another thing. My girlfriend just called me yesterday and she was talking about her vlogs. She vlogs on YouTube and she loves doing it. And she was telling me, the videos that do the best for me are the videos that I'm enjoying the most. And she's like, I have to like get out of this mode of like, she's realizing that she just has to enjoy it more for it to do better. Or for it to like her and to even enjoy it more. And it's a win-win too. When I was going into that 9-to-5 job, if I was enjoying and having fun helping customers, they would buy. It's an emotional thing. It's like if I just have fun, the more fun I had, the more money I made. The more fun I have making these podcast episodes, the better they do. You could probably feel it in this episode. I have a lot of energy and I feel really lit up right now. And you probably feel that. People feel what you feel. And if you are feeling and you're having fun, you will manifest more abundance and more energy. Now, there's this other idea I want to share with you. So going the extra mile is key. That changed everything. Realize that you're always getting a reflection of what you believe you deserve. That's where we get into the second aspect of this with the new concept I want to share. The next thing is I read a book. So Think and Grow Rich was one book I read, completely changed my life. There's another book. What is it called? It's called The Science of Getting Rich by Walter Wattles. Is that the name of it? I think that's the name of it. It's a 50-page book. I would read that book every single day going into my at Nordstrom's. I would go to the E-Bar, which is like their little bar or like their little coffee bar. I would get an espresso or a coffee. I would go sit at the E-Bar and I would read in my little iPhone, because this is back in 2011 when the iPhones were much smaller. I would read The Science of Getting Rich. And there was a video I used to watch also with Wayne Dyer on the power of intention. I remember very clearly, I would just read these all the freaking time. If you've ever seen Bob Proctor, he's always talking about, reading the book Think and Grow Rich. He's like, it's in my back pocket. I'm reading it right now. Like, I'm talking to you right now, but I'm reading about it. I'm thinking about it. Like, he's always reading the book Think and Grow Rich, because that repetition is helping rewire his brain. So for me, that was kind of like this Science of Getting Rich book, but a lot of it talked about impression and impressing what's called increasing value, giving value, going the extra mile. Is very similar. But one of the other books I read that changed everything was Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. It's a doctor. This guy wrote a book because he realized that when he, as a plastic surgeon, had clients that were coming in to get facial reconstruction and boob jobs, facelifts, all this stuff, the only way they would really create internal change, internal happiness, is if they also changed their self-image. Everyone has a self-image that's on autopilot. We will do anything we can to stay within the set point of that self-image. We will fight for it to stay the same, even if it means pain. And so he'd have someone that would get a facial surgery, but they would not feel any different unless they also changed their internal self-image. And that's what inspired him to learn more about this whole inner self-image thing. So for me, working that 9-to-5 job, going in, at the E-Bar, reading about the science of getting rich and all this other stuff, when I read Psycho-Cybernetics, everything changed because I became brutally honest and aware of my self-image. I saw myself as an average sales employee. Now, first off, let's not get too far ahead of it. First question you want to ask yourself is, what is my internal self-image? How do I see myself? What is my money set point? I made working that sales job always $55,000 to $65,000 a year. That was my set point. There were some people I worked with that made $70,000, $80,000 a year because it was a sales job, right? I could have made that, but I didn't. Why not? Because my self-image was the $55,000 to $65,000 a year. That was my comfortable set point. And what happened is the first question I asked myself is, what is my set point? And I said, well, how much am I making? So you can actually use your external reality to show you what your current set point is, what your current natural point is. And what you can then do is realize that that is where you are, and you can be honest with yourself. And I thought to myself, well, at the end of the day, you go home, you come back the next day at this sales job, and there's a list of the top sales employees from the day before by department. So I could see that I was always right in the middle of this list. There's a guy named Tony. He was always at the top. He was selling shoes for a long time, and he was good at it. There were 2 or 3 other people that were always at the top. And then there was this middle lit part, and there was the bottom part. And I would only be at the top if I had a lucky day. And then the people at the bottom were kind of always at the bottom. And I realized, that's interesting. There's consistency there. What is it? And I realized I see myself as a mediocre employee. I see myself as an average sales employee. And this is what I did. I started becoming aware of that. And I started asking myself, what would the top salesperson version of Aaron think, feel, and act like and be? What is my body language like? How would I greet customers? Would I greet every customer or only select customers? What kind of energy would I lead with? Would I smile or not smile? What would that version of me, how would I express myself? How would I add value? How would I go above and beyond? And then what I did is I simply decided, this is who I am now. Within days, I was consistently at the top of that list by changing my internal self-image and then being it, giving myself permission to be that version of me. And I used that, and from that point going forward, my job was much easier. And I had a base point with going above and beyond, which we'll talk about something in a minute that will, I think, tie all of this together because it's tied in with all of this. But then I applied that same exact principle because then I learned that. And then I ended up working at Barney's New York, which is a more expensive shoe department. And then in 2017, I used that same principle to become a full-time YouTuber. Working that 9-to-5 job, going in 40 hours a week, I was like, what would the full-time version Aaron YouTuber be doing every single day? Be making a video. I'd be consistently making videos. I'd be adding value. I'd be learning marketing. I'd be learning how to get more dynamic on camera. I'd be putting in the reps. And then I started being that version of me. And guess what happened? Within 6 months, I was full-time on YouTube. I put in my 2 weeks. One of the best feelings I've ever had is putting in my 2 weeks and not being told by corporate politics what to do and my manager. It was such a good feeling. And even then, I went full-time, and then there was another jump that I had. And all these jumps, they came from me changing my self-image and giving myself permission to be this new version of me. But there's a thing here I want to share when it comes to money and abundance and this whole effective way thing. And it has to do with what is called surplus energy. Surplus energy. This is what changed everything for me. And this was allowed me to really create that abundance. Now, surplus energy, what this means is there's an energy that we all have that's our base point energy of how we're thinking, feeling, and acting that's on autopilot. And even when you're going to the gym, think about it in the gym analogy. If you go to the gym every day and you just do the same weights every single day, you're not going to get bigger because you're not challenging your muscle to grow. You're not breaking down the tissue to allow it to grow. So what I've been doing to get bigger in the gym is I've been going in, I've been pushing myself beyond what is comfortable. And by doing that, it then grows more. Well, the same thing happens with energy surplus. What you must do in order to create more abundance, more money, more anything is realize your base necessities being meet your survival mode, right? Going into work, doing the same things every day, not going the extra mile, just doing the baseline minimum, that will keep you where you are. But then what you do is you realize that you have something called surplus energy. When you are passionate about what you're doing, that's adding value into the world, that's your surplus energy. Where are you putting your surplus energy? Now, some of you may be putting your surplus energy into playing video games. You may be putting your surplus energy into just watching videos. You may be putting your surplus energy into bad habits, alcohol, cannabis, just completely losing yourself in other things, and that's where your surplus energy is going. The key to this is being aware of where your surplus energy is going and then putting it into things that you are passionate about that also add value out into the world. That's what changes everything. And then you can also become aware of some of the beliefs you have about money and abundance that are keeping you where you are. Because that comfort zone, that set point, is what you will fight to stay consistent to. I was fighting to stay consistent to a 9-to-5 job I wasn't passionate about, but I felt very safe with that job. And it was like, even though I didn't enjoy it, it was like it brought in the money every month. It felt normal. It felt like average, So this is something you want to become aware of when it comes to where you're putting your energy and this whole idea of surplus energy. And then also the blocks that you have, a lot of the blocks you have come from parental and family dynamics growing up. If you have fear and worry about money, let me ask you a question. Did you have a parent or a family member that also had fear and worry about money? Because if so, then you may have taken on their meaning to money that is having you block it in your life now. Now, one thing we will be doing in the 21-day Magnetic Abundance Challenge that starts on January 1st, if you haven't joined yet, go to aarondowdy.com/money, is we're going to be going through 21 days of reforming our relationship and our beliefs about money to really align with our true selves. And it's going to look like, by the way, that you join this and that it's all about money and abundance, but it's actually more so to do with the shadow of what you learned growing up from your parents, your family, your sense of worthiness, because you will always get a reflection of what you believe you deserve. And as you confront this, that's where money starts to flow into your life. We've not given ourselves permission to be the most bold, authentic, abundant version of ourselves, and that's why we feel blocked. That's why we feel stuck. So right now is the best time to join if you haven't joined already, by the way. It's aarondowdy.com/money. But surplus energy is really the key to the name of this game, because surplus energy is also going above and beyond, going the extra mile. The way I would tissue up things and go above and beyond, add more value. The way I make videos that add value, and that's the intention. And even now, I'm realizing that I enjoy making these videos, but I enjoy more so doing like live events. I might just start doing like more interviews or videos with different people to challenge myself, but also I think that might just add more value and I'm more excited about it. Remember this, people feel what you feel. When I was selling women's shoes, if I was having a day that I didn't feel that great, I wouldn't do as well. If I was enjoying the process of having fun, I would do better. If I was making a video and I'm enjoying making the video, you can feel that energy. You can feel that surplus energy just oozing out, and then it's like contagious. And those videos tend to do better. But the trap we don't want to get caught up in is focusing on the side effect, which is the money and the views and the significance and all this stuff. We want to focus on the energy. Where's your energy alignment happening? Are you passionate about what you're doing? When you're passionate about it, you're also adding value to other people. Now, the other thing you want to do is you want to bring awareness to different aspects of your beliefs and your meanings that you give to money, because that will block money from coming into your life. For a long time, in 2012, when I went through my awakening, in 2012, I said, screw money. It's evil. It's control. And I ended up just quitting my 9-to-5 job at Nordstrom's on a whim. And I didn't want to get a 9-to-5 job. And from there, what I did is I lived at my mom's and I was just meditating. I just wanted to ascend into a higher level of consciousness. I was sun gazing. I got really dark, actually. I got really skinny because I went vegan on a whim. And then I was like just looking, I started looking unhealthy. Kind of like stopped eating a lot. I was kind of depressed as well. I wasn't depressed. I was actually excited because of my spiritual awakening. But then I was like sun gazing every day for hours a day, and I got really dark. But then I also developed a belief that like money is control and all this stuff. And guess what? You think I attracted a lot of money in? Nope. All my energy was going towards the system and how bad it is and how like it's not in alignment, all this stuff. And guess what happened? I was not attracting abundance and money in. I had to look at and realize that if I believe money is bad, then to get money means I'm bad. I had to look at the beliefs that money is the root of all evil. To be spiritual and have money doesn't make sense. I had to look at all this stuff. Now realize being spiritual, you can be spiritual and be abundant at the same time, because everything is a reflection of us. Everything is a reflection of our own energy. And money is just one version of that. You don't have to get lost or overly identified with the money, but at the same time, realize that we came here to have a physical experience. We came here to enjoy the food, to enjoy nice things. And the more we focus on that, the more that changes everything. Is we focus on allowing ourselves to actually enjoy this experience. How good can things get for you? There's another book called The Big Leap. The Upper Limit Problem is what it's called. And the thing is we have a certain base point of what we feel. And anytime things start getting really good, we start looking for reasons to sabotage ourselves. Anytime like somebody, you might experience that if you're like in a loving relationship or something. Someone starts to like you and you're like, this feels weird. I need to fuck this up somehow. You see what I mean? It's like, and these are based in 4 different things that we're going to be going through, by the way, in the 21-day Magnetic Abundance Challenge. But one of them is we believe we're flawed. There's some level of shame that we have around money. Something broken about me. It normally comes from childhood dynamics and family growing up. I was treated a certain way by my ex-stepmom. There's something wrong with me. Why would this happen? Why wouldn't my dad protect me from my ex-stepmom? I must be broken. Shame. No one could really love me. Those are beliefs that I had. And then I was like, blocking me from abundance because I couldn't even get the courage to like make videos because why would anyone ever listen to me? The second one is like an abandonment. We're afraid people are going to leave us. How can you make more money if you're afraid you're going to leave your family and friends in the dust? You're going to become this egocentrical asshole that just like ditches everybody. That's the belief we might have. And we're afraid then to do that. Maybe we're afraid of outshining other people. That's another one of them. Maybe growing up, you had siblings growing up to where if you got the attention, you'd feel bad for other siblings. That was me. I felt bad for my brother. And I'd always like deflect energy. So I couldn't deflect any compliments or, any level of praise. Wasn't worthy of it also. Many of us will have a combination of these. And other ones, we don't want to be a burden. We don't want to be a burden to the world, to other people. So like, why even try, right? These are all different aspects, but the way to manifest money more effectively than ever before is to focus on your own energy, not on the money, and on giving what is called having the surplus energy funneled into what you're passionate about with going the extra mile and adding value, finding creative ways to add value. And as you do that, what you will find is that it changes everything about you and it allows you to be more abundant than ever before. Now, I do have a video and an episode that is all about money beliefs. I'm going to talk about money, how to let go of the different beliefs around money so that you can really allow in more abundance than ever before. Has to do with also being a spiritual millionaire and understanding that dynamic. I'm going to go ahead and link that right here. Watch that video. It will transform your life and help you really wire in these concepts in a very powerful way. Other than that, have a great day. What you put out is what you get back, but when you go above and beyond, you open up new opportunities for yourself. I used to do this small little thing, and I'm going to share with you in this video the 7